Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central. So today we're going to be going over 5 heroes in the Overwatch League that pick rates have absolutely soared in this new pro meta. I don't think we've ever been in a spot where we've had compositions and hero picks being as diverse as it is currently. Of course in ranked play it's whatever goes, we've had that freedom for quite some time really. But I was definitely curious to see how the Overwatch League teams dealt with these changes and made compositions based around it. And I've got to say, I'm pretty glad and excited with what we've seen. Goats is still present of course, but it certainly isn't as obnoxious as you may have assumed. Lots of pros have turned around and said Goats is still as meta as it was before, and whilst yes, Goats is still around, it definitely isn't as set in stone as you may believe. But as I said at the start of the video, instead of looking at particular comps, which we will do, I did want to focus on 5 heroes. The pick rates in comparison to stage 1 at least, and what we've experienced in the meta ourselves, have gone up quite a bit, and pleasant surprises really. First, I did want to mention that the diversity of maps does help and complement the meta shift. Maps like Eichenwald, Hanamura, Paris, Junkertown, Kings Road, Gibraltar, all are maps that require different playstyles. So because of that, we saw a lot more than we may have done if the maps of stage 1 we used here. But the first hero that I wanted to talk about is Baptiste. In comparison to last season, he was played a hell of a lot more because he wasn't in stage 1 of course. He's a brand new hero, he is very exciting and lots of players couldn't wait to get their hands on him. Now of course they can in competitive, but he also seemed very niche. The more people that he spoke to, the more that they assumed that his playstyle would only really complement bunker comps where you'd have an Orisa, a Mercy, Junkrat and Widowmaker on the high ground fighting from distance, some typical gameplay that suits Baptiste in the background if you haven't noticed. And he was used there quite a lot, especially on the 2CP maps, but he was also used in different compositions like this one where he was on the attacking side. It's a little bit different, it's a little bit strange to be honest, but it seemed to work for a lot of different teams. Weirdly enough, Baptiste was also used a lot in forms of Goats comp. Instead of having a Brigitte in there in the traditional lineup, they would have a Baptiste instead, which to be honest does make a lot of sense with the AoE heals he has, the immortality field, not so much his ultimate, but you can see how it may work. Bastion, Uprising were firm examples of using this composition to their advantage, and it seemed to work out quite well. Next up is a DPS hero, it's Bastion, which is very surprising. You would assume that he again would be picked up a lot in bunker comp, and of course pirate ship compositions with Junkertown in the map lineup, not to the point where he felt like a must pick in this style. Maybe you would add him in certain scenarios that it may work. And for the most part you would assume that heroes like Junkrat and Widowmaker and maybe Hanzo would be used in these bunker comps. But especially on Paris we saw him used quite a lot because that first choke is so obnoxious. But even on the second point some teams did want to make him work, LA Gladiators being one of them. Well, we did even see some teams running him on attack in a bunker comp, which is very weird. One of the main points that's brought up about how good this bunker composition is it's very difficult to mirror it. If the enemy team is running Goats, you can run Goats to try and counter it. Dive, it's the same thing. Snipers, it's the same thing. With bunker comp, because it's so defensive orientated, it's very hard to use it on attack, but we did see some teams try it, and to an extent, somewhat succeed. Bastion's pick rate was very surprising, and kinda curious to see more. Now I want to talk about Ana. She is a very good hero, of course, has been very good for quite some time. In the big patch that came out recently, she did get nerfed a little, but it didn't seem to really affect her pick rate at all, as it soared in the Overwatch League. That's because we've seen a lot less Zen and Lucio played in these compositions, especially in more traditional lineups to be honest. In more 2-2-2 compositions we have seen Ana being used a lot more than Zen, but even in Goats comp we did see Ana swapped in alongside a Zen, in place of Zen. You get the idea. She was used in a lot of different situations, such as in Dive, bunker comps, Goats, triple DPS, and of course snipers. We don't have stats on her pick rate so far, but it seems a lot more popular than Zen and Lucio currently, which is super great to see. She's been a hero that a lot of players enjoy playing her, but in the pro scene, Zenyatta has always been the prime pick. Now it's a lot more balanced. I think Ana has the advantage now, but it's still early days. She might become incredibly meta over the next few weeks and months. Now we talk about Soldier. Soldier did receive a pretty strong buff on the recent patch, but nobody was really sure how impactful it would be, with each of his bullet shots going up from 19 damage to 20. He had that change in the past, and he was very strong back then, and it seems to an extent he's back where he was now. He went from one of the lowest pick rate DPS in stage 1 to one of the most popular. Not the most popular, but you do see him crop up now and again a lot more consistently than before, because to be honest, it wasn't that difficult. But much like Bastion, he was used in more situations than you may have assumed initially, and that's even when D.Va is still being played, and of course she is a relatively strong counter to him, at least to an extent. It wasn't as much of an impactful shift in comparison to the other 3 heroes that we highlighted, but it's just a nice change of pace. It's just nice to see him. Reminds me of the old times watching players like Defran, unfortunately not anymore in the Overwatch League, but players like AKM that were known to be tracking gods. There is a downside to that. McCree and Ash's pick rate, so far, nowhere really to be seen. So it does feel like these hit scan heroes that are in competition with each other, that you can only really play one and the other 2 do fall to the wayside quite a bit, which again, super unfortunate, but it's nice to see Soldier back. These heroes weren't in a particular order, but I think this hero is the most surprising and certainly the most impactful I've seen so far. She's on the thumbnail, it's Mercy. We did expect her to return a little bit again in Bunker Comp if it became meta, but I certainly didn't expect to see this much of her. Again, we don't have stats, but certainly from the games that I've seen, she seems like the most popular support used so far in a lot of different compositions again. Much like Anna, she is part of that composition that's been used in situations where you wouldn't expect, even in compositions like Dive. We saw LA Gladiators running Genji Sombra, Winston D.Va, Baptiste Mercy as a dive comp, which was very weird, but Mercy just seems to fit in a lot more, and especially combined with Baptiste, Anna, even Zen, Mercy's pick rate has gone up quite a lot. Maybe it's because support ultimates aren't heavily relied on as much anymore. It's really difficult to say the reasons why, as opposed to, of course, the nerfs that Zenyatta and Lucio got. I know not a lot of people really like Mercy in a lot of cases, but she's in a pretty weak spot at the moment and still being played, and played by good players nonetheless. And us YouTubers have got a rep for ragging on this hero quite a lot, but honestly, I do play her. I do enjoy playing her alongside Lucio. It is nice to see that her pick rate has gone up, not just for bunker comps or running with snipers or running with a Pharah, but in just other random bits and bobs, which I quite like. But they are 5 heroes that have gone up in pick rate even from the first 9 to 10 games of the Overwatch League that we've seen so far, and we're in the first week, and no doubt more changes and meta shifts are about to come. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it insightful. Thanks for watching. Let me know any other heroes that you think I missed that have gone up in popularity or maybe even down. Reinhardt's pick rate is, shot down a huge amount. But thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.